Hello and a very warm welcome to Full Volume. This is the Manchester Libraries podcast. My name is Alan. I will be your host/producer. If you enjoyed the first episode, and we think you did due to the feedback, it's been fantastic. Honestly, we've had great feedback from everybody. So if you listened or if you were in any way involved in the production of episode 1, listen, thank you very much. We're up and running and we're off the ground, and here we are with episode 2. So a brilliant response. Thank you very much to everybody. Right, okay, let's get into what's happening on episode 2. In a moment, we'll hear from Barrie Leach. He is the Town Hall official photographer, and he's currently running an exhibition here at the Central Library called Our Town Hall. He'll tell you more about that in just a moment. And this episode's branch out focuses on the Forum in Wythenshawe. I spent a few days there a couple of weeks ago talking to all the people who work there. Amazing library. James Ryan, the Service Development Manager, is an incredible human being. Honestly, couldn't have done more for me. Thanks a million, James, if you're listening. And we're going to talk about exactly what they do over there, because there's so much going on. They've got a wonderful new creative space, and we're going to meet some of the people who use that space, and we'll also hear from James himself. And Gary will be here at the end of the show to talk about what's on as well. We're going to fill you in on what's coming up over the next 3 to 4 weeks or so. So it's a pretty packed schedule. Let's get on with it. This is Full Volume. I'm here with Barrie Leach, who is the Town Hall photographer, official Town Hall photographer. And Barrie has a new exhibition here at the library. It's called Portraits of a Workforce. And Barrie's dropped in to have a chat with us. So Barrie, thank you very much for your time. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
Good. So I've just been down and had a look. I mean, it's some fantastic pictures down there. Obviously, we're all waiting, aren't we, for the Town Hall to reopen. It's how long now? 6, 7 years it's been closed?
It's been a while, yeah.
It's been a long while. And you've decided at this point in time to take some photographs of the people that are actually doing the physical back-breaking work. Is that right?
Yeah, it was something that we've been thinking about since the start of the projects. Really, it's kind of been led by the when the building was first finished. They had a thing called the procession of the trades, where everybody who worked on the building got to march through Manchester. They all had like elaborate examples of their work and things like that to show off and everything. The entire city got the afternoon off. I believe everyone took full advantage of that. And yeah, they had like this big parade. Everyone got celebrated in that way. And it was like, that was their way of doing it. But obviously there's no photographic evidence of this. There's like an etching that you can have a look at, like a painting, I think, and stuff like that. But
I mean, I don't want to sound stupid, but obviously cameras had been invented then. What do you think? We were talking about this earlier. Why would you think that? I mean, maybe some exist, but you're not able to find them. But if they don't exist at all, why do you think that is? Because surely you would have thought that this is a landmark moment. A colleague upstairs said perhaps it might have been something to do with the fact that back at that time it wasn't a regular thing to take photographs of people. Buildings were one thing, but maybe not people.
Yeah, there's the odd photograph of the building in construction. You can see the scaffolding and stuff like that, and the old walls of the town. I think it was like a depot where like they emptied the bins and things like that originally on that site. But yeah, so there's the odd photograph of the work, but of the actual people, I think it was one of those things where it was like reserved for the great and good, really.
That's what another colleague said, that there might have been a case of slight at the time with the sort of upper class, lower classes, everyone being very much separated. That probably wasn't a thought that anybody had. Let's photograph the people making the building. Yeah. I mean, do you know what I mean? I mean, that sounds awful now, but I think that would have been something at that time that would have happened possibly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There was you tend to get photographs in those days of the aristocracy or mugshots of prisoners, and that's the
nowhere in between.
Yeah, nowhere really in between, or very few in between at least. So yeah, and it's like you'd hear stories about the people who worked on the building and things like that. You get the odd story in the Evening News or the Manchester Guardian at the time where they're talking about like accidents that happen, poor guys that have fallen off the buildings, and they're the only names that you really get.
So common back then as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was a completely different world.
And I was looking at, there's a couple of pictures down there where you've taken shots from up on the roof, and you get to see just how complex a building this is. I don't think we notice it from the ground. It's just, we look at the front of the building, oh, isn't that lovely? And then the Central Library looks amazing. But it's such a complex triangular building almost, isn't it? It must have, at the time, I know it was pretty special. People thought this is going to be special. And I think it remains so, really. There's not that many buildings like that, really, are there?
Yeah, it's a quite a complex footprint, and when you do see it from the top, you can see the roof has been like a really big part of this job. And when you see, because you just like look at it from the ground, and you think, oh, it's just those bits we can see. But when you look at it from the top, and you can see all the different nooks and crannies and the different the way the staircases come up, and it's just crazy.
It's just
so
the complexity
complex.
of it. It's not your standard rectangular square, even a round building where you think, oh, I know what I'm working with here. It is like a labyrinth.
Everyone we've spoke to on the job, people who have had experience working on new builds and stuff like that, have said that it's like when you work on new builds, it's like you know where you are. Yeah. But on this project, it's like every measurement is unique, which is one of the reasons why it's been such a complex job.
And in terms of discovery, because I read somewhere that they discovered there was a whole lot more rooms no one knew about, and they found things that people had been lost forever. So there's that added on. That complexity adds to it too, because you've got to make sure actually we need to preserve this stuff, and is this important?
It's that thing of people will. You took a look at the building as it was when the city council moved out, and it was like, oh, we think that this is, the way it is, and then you remove something and go, oh, wait a minute.
There's a whole other room behind that.
Yeah, things like that are like little spaces or kind of like weird quirks of the building and things like that. So.
And is the plan to try and keep as many of those as possible? There's not going to be a case of, we can't keep everything. So are they hoping to, what will the building look like compared to what it originally looked like, do you think? I know that's a big question.
Well, I think you'll be able to see more of it than you did previously, especially as a lot of these spaces were kind of out of bounds due to fire regulations, which is one of the reasons why the job had to be done, to start in the first place. So it's going to be a lot more accessible.
I just can't wait, because I've only worked here 3 years, so it's never been open as I've been a member of staff. But we do utilise the building for our on our day-to-day job. So I'm looking forward to doing that again. But the big question before I let you go, I know you're a busy man, and you didn't want me to ask you this, but do we have an ETA on sort of when we're going to be able to sort of go in and see the building after all this time?
I mean, I'm just a photographer, so I can't speak on those kind of things.
On the spot.
I wouldn't like to be drawn in on that. Yeah, everyone's working so hard, and it's like it's one of those things where it's like we need it to be done right. It's such an important
better get it
job.
right than open it early and then go, we haven't done things properly.
You don't want to rush things like this, and it'll take however long it takes.
Well, listen, thank you for taking the time out. We will almost certainly talk to you again before the big opening. And for all of you listening, Barrie's exhibition is running till the end of June. Is that right? In the middle of June? It's the next year. So it's going to be there for a little while. So please come in and have a look at the exhibition. It's on the first floor, close to the Music Library, and it is called Portraits of a Workforce by Barrie Leach. Barrie, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, another event that's held at the library, one of the more successful events actually. It's been going on now, I think, for nigh on 2 years. And Nick Georgiou is here to tell us all about it. It's called the Vinyl Club, and it was the brainchild of Nick. And you'll all know vinyl had a major resurgence, didn't it, in the last few years. Biggest selling format again. But for me, we talked about this before, Nick, it's how romantic for me it is, because as a kid I had hordes of vinyl, absolutely loved to see the resurgence. So you had the idea to sort of combine a love of music with playing the original album on vinyl and inviting people around to listen to it, essentially. But it's held at the lovely Chief Librarian's office in the Central Library here. So, Nick, you're very welcome. How are you?
Oh, hi. I'm fine, thank you, Alan.
Good. We get on great. We have good chats about music.
Yeah, we do.
And I was absolutely champion from day one of Vinyl Club. I was like, you got to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us about it then. What is Vinyl Club?
Well, series of people, all with obsessions about their favourite ever record, and they all really want to tell me about it, and they all tell me about the record and play it, and they tell such great stories around the record that they love. You might not like the record, but you like the love of the record that the person shows. Sometimes better than the record itself. Sometimes the whole marriage of the record plus the story behind the record makes for a wonderful evening.
I love the fact that, because I'm very critical.
I know you are.
I have an opinion on...
I love your opinions.
Opinion on absolutely everything. When it comes to music too, and particularly people who come to Vinyl Club, I would have been probably quite judgmental, and some of the albums, I'm like, who listens to this?
You're still like that?
But, a little bit, yeah. But then I went into Vinyl Club a couple of times, and I just seen how... I'm sitting there thinking, okay, am I wrong? Because these people are loving this. And I think it's helped me to kind of go, stop judging an album by its cover, if you like.
Well,
you know,
I mean, everybody loves different types of music, but everyone's affected by different kinds of music in the same way. Their love for it just shines through. So you're, one person's Thriller is another person's Xenakis or some odd avant-garde composer means as much to that person as Michael Jackson does to somebody else. The idea that they tell you about it and feel such pleasure in telling you about it is what makes the...
But I think you're underselling yourself a little bit, because what you've actually done is created a space for people who might not necessarily sort of find themselves in being able to recreate that situation at home, where they can come in and actually talk to people who not only are willing to listen to the music and learn about it, but it's a space where they can feel safe talking about it. Because if you're not a muso or someone who loves to, other people go, shut up talking about that album. Whereas here, you're inviting a space to say, come in and just for an hour on a Wednesday night, come in and lose yourself in this album.
Well, that's very kind of you, Alan. And I'll take that. I'll take the compliment.
But that's what it is. I mean, it's whether or not you intended it, Nick. That's what's happened.
I like to sit back. That's my bag, if you like. That's how I...
You have zero ego.
Yeah.
Which I love too, because it spills into the rest of the group. There's no one coming in going, I'm going to talk at you for half an hour about Michael Jackson. No one does that. It's just come in, listen to the record, tell us if you like it, and then you'll get your turn next week. And really, that's just how the wheel turns, isn't it?
Nobody, if they are full of themselves, ends up being full of themselves after they've met me, because I deflate them.
That isn't true. Nick is the nicest person in the world.
No.
There's no pretense.
No, I mean, like you say, that probably does come from me, because they look to me what am I about, and then they see that there's nothing about me, so they have to fill in that vacuum.
That's not true. You're being self-deferential. I think it's impossible not to like you, firstly. Anyone's welcome to come in, and there's absolutely zero judgment. And if we talk about the music for a minute, I mean, we've had many discussions, haven't we, over some of the albums you guys have listened to. There's absolutely nothing that you could bring here, any type of music, whatever, that wouldn't be
everything's welcome,
accepted, and everybody go, let's give it a shot, even if it might be something you would in a million years never listen to at home.
Yeah, absolutely right, Alan. Some of the stuff that I've been subjected to, I've worried about being subjected to it. But again, I go back to the presentation. When you hear somebody's advocating something that you would think, I'm not going to like this, and then there's a context to it. It does change your opinion on the record. Not necessarily you, Alan. You might still think this is a bag of rubbish with a bit of a blarney at the beginning, but it can. The context can improve your...
I think so. And finding out what it means to somebody else can sometimes make you look at a song in a different way. So go, actually, I didn't think it was a love song. I didn't think it was a song about tragedy. I didn't realise he was talking about his dead cat. Whatever.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I go, okay, well, I understand it. I mean, some of it, I'll keep my opinions to myself. It's not about me. But,
no, you're spot on.
So what, I think maybe let's encapsulate what we're trying to say in one sentence. Just come in, no matter who you are, where you're from, no matter what music you like. If you have the album on vinyl, that is a prerequisite. You must have the record. Don't be coming in thinking we have it. We don't have a library of albums. You must have the vinyl.
Yeah.
So if anybody listening to this says, yeah, that's for me. How can they get in touch with you, Nick?
So it's nick.georgiou, Georgiou, at manchester.gov.uk. You're welcome along.
Nick, thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Alan.
Right, it is time for this month's Branch Out. This is a feature where we actually go out and visit some of the libraries within the network of libraries here in Manchester. And this month, I had the pleasure of a few trips out to the Forum in Wythenshawe. I want to do a big shout out to James Ryan. Really helpful. He's the Service Development Manager over there, and honestly, couldn't have been more helpful. So thanks a million to James. We'll hear more from him a bit later on. But I was really impressed with the space. It's incredible. They've just had a big upgrade and turned what was their reference library into a fantastic creative space. And it's currently home to the likes of the Wythenshawe Youth Theatre. They do a live live podcast there called Brother. And there's a Music Evermore event, which is a fully funded instrument tuition service for kids who want to learn how to play an instrument. I mean, I can go on. There's just so much good stuff happening there. I spent a couple of days there and I spoke to a few people. We'll hear from Steve in just a moment. He runs Block Cinema, which is a community cinema offering kind of cut price tickets for people to go and see the latest movies in the comfort of the library. So I spoke to Steve about that. But first, we'll hear from Taryn, an absolutely lovely lady with a real passion for the arts. She set up and runs an event called Wythenshawe. Now, I was over there watching them set it up and had a chance to talk to her about running the event and also about using the brand new kit over at the new creative space in the Forum Library.
Well, it's the first one at this space, but it's actually our third event in total. But it's the first one at this space, so we're learning to use all the new techie equipment that there is at this space, so it is a bit nerve-wracking. But we aim to do like one per season, so this is our winter edition of Wythenshawe. We've already had our autumn and summer last year. So yeah, this is the first one of the year, and it's the first one in this space. Yeah, I'm nervous, but I'm excited. I'm glad to bring something a bit different to this space, especially with it all being like brand new. It's good to feel like we're like the premiere.
And tell me, how did it end up that you've come here to Forum? And tell us about this space first off.
Councillor Rob Nunney, who is the Green Party representative for Wythenshawe, he attended our first two events last year, which were held at the Dandelion Centre just up the road. And he basically told us about this space opening up, and then connected us with James Ryan, he basically is the boss man here. He brought us in and just invited us. He just asked us if we'd be interested in hosting it here. We got invited to the opening of this space. We like the way that it works. I'm really impressed by the equipment and stuff, and it's kind of like really easy to just plonk up and set an event up because everything's already here.
I think that's as it should be. These public spaces, they should be used. It's sometimes they're criminally underused, I think. So in terms of the space itself, I mean, how valuable is it to have a space like this where you can come? And I'm going to presume there's no cost involved in hiring this space.
So far, yeah, we've not been invoiced, but I'm sure, James said that we can use it for free, so which is really good.
And in terms of space in Wythenshawe, I presume the space that is, if there's bars or if there's sort of community centres, civic centres, there's usually a cost involved. So how great is it that you're able to come and have this event here and not have to worry about overheads and just actually give something a go and see if you can get the community involved? I mean, how valuable is that to you?
Yeah, it's really valuable. It's really important for us as well at Wythenshawe to be able to bring people to a space that's not, for example, like a pub or bar, because we don't I feel like in Wythenshawe quite often the only sort of event spaces there is alcohol being served and not everyone's comfortable with that. And that was part of the reason that we wanted to do Wythenshawe. In the past, we've used like community centres and churches, which is great, but they don't always have the equipment that we need or the sound that we need, or they've not got sort of like all this up-to-date jazzy equipment that's here and readily accessible for everyone to use. It's great. I just hope that it gets used more and more.
Taryn there telling us all about her venture Wythenshawe, and I really wish her all the best. A lovely lady and a fantastic initiative, so all the best for the future. I also spoke with Steve. Now Steve runs Block Cinema. It's like a community cinema initiative, and he's chosen to use the space at Wythenshawe to host Block Cinema. They show movies sort of once a month on a Friday night. It's wonderful. There's a big screen set up there. You can bring your treats along, bring your whole family. Tickets are really cheap because we know the cinema's expensive now. So I spoke to Steve about his venture and his kind of run at the commercial cinemas, because I know he'd like to give them a run for their money. So I asked him if he was trying to smash the old commercial cinema patriarchy.
Well, I don't know if smash is really the correct term for this, but we really want to operate in that space between commercial cinema and perhaps the platforms of TV, and also reinvent in a way, but also return to the kind of values of social cinema for all at an affordable price.
Tell us what inspired you to set this up.
Well, we've cut our teeth, really. We started the cinema in 2019. The reason we started the cinema was really to meet that demand, but also there was a social purpose to it. And it was dealing with issues of loneliness and isolation. And the cinema was a great place to come down, to meet people. And one of our remits, and from day one, was that it would be affordable cinema. Is one of a series of initiatives that we run through our community interest company called Together One. So the monies we raise has to go on local community projects. So it's a good way of generating resources, and people would know that the money spent isn't going to a faceless corporate giant somewhere. It's actually being spent in the community and for the community. We are also show a variety of films. We aim at a diverse section. You've got the people that are film buffs. You've got people that like the more mainstream films. But what we do is try to find and source the quality, the best of cinema, past and present. And a community cinema can do something that, say, your multiplexes can't do. We can really listen to what our film goers want. So we do ask them to suggest films, and they do inform the choice of films that we screen.
What a great idea. I mean, I became a home city person during pandemic. I don't know about you, but I haven't been to the cinema for quite some time. But also, in terms of Wythenshawe and the Forum Library itself, a space like this is invaluable for projects like yours, because I imagine you'd have great difficulty sort of having to shell out for a venue and everything that's involved in that. So for you, using Forum, did you find that sort of a great way to be able to launch Block here in Wythenshawe and having this space to use?
The facilities here are wonderful. They're new, they're plush. They've got everything that we need. We've got state-of-the-art screen, state-of-the-art projector, and the sound is wonderful. Yeah. So it's a wonderful experience, and it's all due to the library services have been wonderful. They've been so supportive. They've helped us promote. They've put us in touch with all the movers and shakers in this area.
Well, listen, it's been fantastic to talk to you. I think what you're doing is amazing, and carry on with the best of luck to you with the cinema and everything else.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Steve there from Block Cinema. Thank you very much, Steve, for taking the time to talk to us, and the best of luck with your new venture. They'll be showing some great movies over the next few weeks too. You should check out the website, have a look. I know they're playing Wicked, if you haven't had a chance to see that yet, although I don't know anybody who hasn't seen that, maybe apart from me. And they're showing Dune Part 2 and other big blockbusters. So it's not just old movies or classic movies. They're showing some new and current movies too as well. So brilliant. Thanks again to Steve. Another event that's held at the Forum Library in Wythenshawe is one called Community Connector. It's an event held and put together by James, the manager, who I've been bigging up throughout this entire podcast because he is fantastic. Basically, what he did was gave over the space upstairs, the creative space, to local businesses, local initiatives, local charities, and people who are just generally doing good stuff within the community, as a way to bring everybody together so they can potentially collaborate. People will know what other people are doing. They'll be able to say, oh, I met this woman at an event, she's doing this. I met this guy at an event, he's got a lighting company, etc. So there was 15 different stalls there while I was there. Everybody getting on like a house on fire. A really buzzy event. So honestly, James, well done for pulling it all together. And I had a chance to speak to a couple of people at that event. We'll start with Elena. She runs Safe Spots. Now, this is a initiative she's put together to help young girls that have been the victims of domestic abuse or sexual abuse, and It's a space for them to come and meet other people who've maybe been in the same situation, talk to other people, and just generally find that safe spot that they sometimes need to get away from everyday life. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing she's doing. And she's a very, very enthusiastic lady. Had a great chat with her. And here's what she had to say about her initiative called Safe Spots.
So I'm here today representing Safe Spots, who are a local organisation who support women who flee domestic abuse. And I'm also here representing and raising awareness for my project, TOT, Treasures Out of Trauma, supporting the next generation who have suffered from abuse.
So if I'm right, it's children between the ages of
5
to 21, and it's kids who've suffered abuse and are going through it right now. And what you're doing is trying to create a safe space where they can come and hopefully heal from those experiences. So tell us, how did you get in touch with Wythenshawe Forum Library? I know you're using the space here every Saturday for events. So, I mean, how are you finding it? Are you guys delighted that you have this at your disposal?
I am so grateful. I actually approached James initially. I used the library. And I had an idea. I thought music is a part of the therapy for the children. Music is a big healer. It has a recording studio. It has great podcast rooming. It has the space. James is an amazing asset to the library. And we're very grateful that the kids are going to love it.
For you, having a space like this to come to keep overheads down, that must be, priceless.
Absolutely. Words cannot suffice. James has offered this opportunity to me with no charge. And I even said, "Are you feeling okay?" He said, "Alina, what you're doing, you're giving back, and it's about the youth or the next generation, and it's to make them aware there is a safe space here in Wythenshawe."
And today's event, then, this is fantastic. A great way for you to get your word out about what you're doing, but also for you to connect with all the people in Wythenshawe who are doing similar things. I mean, this must be invaluable to you.
Absolutely. I've met some amazing people today, connecting up with other music artists, connecting up with other people who have actually lived a life on the streets in crime. It's been amazing. It's very refreshing. I'm very grateful for the opportunity today.
Elena, thank you very much for chatting to us. All the best with everything. Elena there from Safe Spots. Honestly, that girl is so full of beans. She was a joy to be around and doing wonderful work over at Wythenshawe Forum Library. So thanks a million for talking to us, Elena. We also had a quick chat with Janine. She runs Be Part of Change, and we asked her how she felt about the Community Connector events.
With these community connectors as well at the library, people get to know who you are.
For Wythenshawe itself, do you think it's having a positive effect?
Yeah, of course, because you don't know what's out there until you actually come to one of these, and then you find out where everyone is, where everyone's based and things like that, what they do.
Thank you very much to Janine from Be Part of Change. And the final word goes to James, the Service Development Manager over at Wythenshawe Library. I asked him how he felt the event went.
So normally this event is organised by the Wythenshawe Housing Group. So this month we've decided to collaborate together and bring all of the cultural and creative groups all together in one room and essentially network, but also more importantly, we've mapped all of the cultural groups in the area. We also mentioned a few bits about our place partnership. So we're going to be working closely with Home and Factory International about bringing more creative opportunities to the area. So to be honest, it was so nice to see so many people here. We had around maybe 14, 15 stall holders. So the idea of the day was to bring these stall holders in the room. So they had to be cultural groups. So I'm on pretty good terms on most of the groups. So it was really good to see some familiar faces, but also it's really good to see some new faces as well, because this is a new space and we want to kind of foster any kind of creativity in any way we can. Yeah, so I'm happy with how it went.
And that's the end of our branch out for this month. We'll have another one for you next month. Okay, let's move on and do a book review. Now, Thom, our front of house manager here at the library, who's also one of the producers on this podcast, he helps me out a lot, so thank you to him. He's also an avid reader, and I've asked him to review a book for us this month, and he's gone for an absolute stone cold classic. David Nicholls is the writer. Most of you will probably already know the book I'm talking about just when I say the author's name. I can safely say there's a twist in there which broke my heart. I don't think I'm actually over it yet. But we've asked Thom to review for you this month One Day by David Nicholls.
Thanks very much, Alan. It's great to be in your book review corner this week. Okay, so I've gone for an oldie but a goodie. And I've picked One Day by British author David Nicholls. Now, readers will likely know David already from a number of best-selling titles he's penned, including Starter for 10, Us, and most recently, You Are Here, which came out last year. And David was in Central Library in Manchester to talk about that one. So thanks very much for that, David. Now, One Day came out back in 2009. And if the title seems familiar, many will remember that the story shot back into the public sphere last year with a major 14-part Netflix adaptation of the book. It was a top 10 hit in 89 countries worldwide. Did you see it? So this is by no means a brand new book, but it's one that I picked up in the Levenshulme train station community library a few weeks back on the way. And though I was slightly skeptical about reading it, I actually just couldn't put it down. So what's it about? Well, this is a coming-of-age romantic comedy drama about two students who meet at Edinburgh University on the day of their graduation. Those students are Dexter Mayhew, a privately schooled upper-middle-class heartthrob studying anthropology, and Emma Morley, a salt-of-the-earth working-class girl from Leeds studying English. An unlikely pairing, perhaps, but they meet at their graduation ball in something of a fling and really hit it off. They promise to be friends and keep in touch if nothing else is meant to be. The day they meet is 15th of July 1988, St. Swithin's Day. From there, the book then fast-tracks you through the next 20 years of their relationship, 1 year every chapter, catching up with them that same day, St. Swithin's Day, every year. It takes you through a roller coaster ride that is life from there, with a will they, won't they narrative throughout. Emma's life traverses through the lows of leaving university to find unemployment and then employment in a Mexican restaurant, losing her confidence, living in a series of horrible bedsits that always smell of fried onions, sound familiar, to becoming an English teacher, settling down with useless boyfriends, notably Ian Whitehead, a would-be up-and-coming comedian who is completely unfunny, to having inappropriate affairs before eventually finding success as a children's author in her early 30s. Conversely, Dexter is one of those types that just seems to breeze through life. He goes travelling around Europe and India at leisure, walks into a media job before finding success on a late-night TV programme called Large in It. Think The Word or Eurotrash, that Friday night kind of telly, and becomes a kind of Chris Evans, Richard Bacon, Jamie Theakston, Terry Christian white boy wannabe, leaving a trail of girlfriends, drugs and empty bottles in his wake. At the turn of the century, times and attitudes change, and he finds his fortunes waning as Emma's are just picking up. As Emma and Dexter's lives peak and trough, so too do they intertwine, and it's clear that whether they like each other or not at various points of their 20s and 30s, they're inexplicably meant to be together. So what about the author's style? Well, I must admit, I'm very late to the David Nicholls party, but his writing is truly worth the hype. Engaging, funny, romantic, clever, emotional, and ultimately so readable. He has that uniquely British dry wit and nuanced eye for observation that makes his social commentary on people and place, on the changing times, trends, attitudes, and rituals absolutely second to none. Anyone who lived through the 80s, 90s, and noughties will feel like they've been transported through time. Whereas anyone who has or is living through their 20s and 30s will completely resonate with the aspects of Emma and Dexter's personalities and the life events they find they're living through. Overall, would I recommend this book? Yes, I absolutely would. The characters you genuinely feel you know inside out and can't help falling for them for all their flaws and attributes. There's in-jokes and side characters where you feel like you're exclusively in on the joke too. Famously, there's some incident about a foot massage that goes horribly wrong between Dexter and one of Emma's flatmates. You dread to think what has actually happened there. Then there's touchstones of each year that you pass through, whether it's the music, the clothing, the restaurants, the cocktails, societal styles. They're all so on point. Each chapter is like digging up a time capsule. Now, unusually, it's one of those books in which I confess I had seen the Netflix series first, but the book is so vividly, beautifully written that it adds a whole new dimension to the events and characters that those TV adaptations never quite can. The TV adaptation, though, not to put it down, it is very, very loyal indeed, I must say. And of course, there is that bit at the end. And I can tell you, Even reading it on the plane coming back from holiday the other day, I could feel myself welling up a little. So, all in all, it's a fantastic book, highly recommended for fans of Nick Hornby or Jonathan Coe. I give this a very solid 9 out of 10. Take it out from Manchester Central Library or any other library in Manchester right now.
Thank you so much, Tom, reviewing David Nicholls' classic novel, One Day. Okay, we'll have another review for you next month. Okay, we've almost come to the end of episode 2 of Full Volume. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you took the time out of your day to listen to us, really appreciate it. Let's wrap things up with a little roundup of what's happening over the next 4 weeks or so here at Central Library. And Gary has dropped back in again. Gary, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine. Yep, good.
Okay, right. Let's crack on, shall we? Tell everybody what's happening over the next 4 weeks or so. Let's start with your gig, Gary. This is Ear Soup.
Ear Soup, it's my four weekly hour of acoustic music. So we've got 3 performers. We've got Garen Frith, who's played before, is fantastic, and also Black Sheep Lad, who are a duo. And then we've got a new act, Canta Semper, who are a female harmony group. So really, really looking forward to them, seeing them online, and they sound fantastic. So yeah, it's 2 till 3 p.m. on the 15th of March, which is a Saturday. And it's just a lovely way of spending Saturday afternoon listening to gorgeous music.
What's better, being in Central Library, music?
Exactly.
So also there's a Nova Scotian folk music seminar on as well. Now, you better take this one because you're probably more familiar with Nova Scotian folk music than I am.
I'm really excited to see this. So it says Nova Scotian folk music. I believe it's Appalachian folk music, which is, if you've ever seen the film Deliverance, the dueling banjos scene in that's kind of Appalachian.
I'm still traumatised by that movie. I can't watch it again. I can't.
Yeah, well, hopefully this won't be so traumatising. So it's Anna who's delivering the talk. She's played at Ear Soup as well. She's a great musician, and apparently she's going to get some of her friends are going to come to play like weird folk musical instruments. Yeah, and it's just going to be, I think it's really fascinating. And there's tea and biscuits, so what more could you ask for?
And that one's free. Just drop in.
Yeah.
No need to worry about tickets or anything. That is in stark contrast to Lego Club, which is a regular event we have here as well.
Everybody loves Lego.
Oh, Lego Club. It's so busy. The kids absolutely love it. I didn't have Lego as a kid because, unfortunately...
You were Irish.
Well, we were Irish, and we didn't have an awful lot, I'll be honest with you. I think food and clothes and shoes came over Lego, but I do remember being gifted some in my teens, and I think by then maybe it had just passed me by. I just thought, well, I'm not really interested in this, but boy, a lot of kids are, aren't they?
Kids love Lego, and yeah, it's free. Just drop in. Maybe not come in your bare feet.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah. Because we don't do that. Okay, that's the Lego Club, and it's on every other Saturday. And then finally, Crime Central. Then Gary, take this one.
Crime Central. It's a monthly crime and thriller writers fiction event at the library. The next one is on the 26th of February, which is a Wednesday. So it's an hour-long chat with special guests Susie Aspley, Nick Quantrill and Eve Smith, followed by a question and answering and a book signing.
Wonderful. That's Crime Central. If you're into your crime novels, you can't miss that one. Okay, well, that's it for another month. Gary, have a brilliant rest of February.
Thank you.
And a great early March, and we'll see you again in the middle of next month.
You will.
Thanks for listening, everybody. This has been Full Volume. Thank you. Goodbye.